Hi guys, welcome to my YouTube channel Share and Learn. In this lecture, we are going to study about migraine in detail. Headache is the most common complaint encountered by health practitioners. Therefore, in 1981, International Headache Society was founded, which is a London-based organization that classifies headaches and also suggests diagnostic criteria for headache disorders. It has classified headaches into two categories, which are the primary headache disorders and secondary headache disorders. Primary headache disorders include tension type, migraine, and cluster headaches. Out of the three, tension type and migraine are most commonly observed during most productive years of life, that is from 20 to 55 years of age. Secondary headache disorders are symptomatic of another organic disease. We are going to focus on migraine in this lecture. Migraine is a severe form of headache which is characterized by recurring episodes of pulsating or throbbing headache, which is usually in one side of the brain. Therefore, it is called unilateral headache, and if left untreated, it can last for 4 to 72 hours. It is predominantly observed in women than in men, and it is believed that genetics also plays an important role, therefore it may run in families. Migraine is associated with symptoms such as nausea, vomiting, sensitivity to light, sound and smell, sensitivity to weather changes, and it is believed that abrupt and sudden movements can also precipitate migraine. This primary headache disorder can be divided into two major subtypes: migraine without aura and migraine with aura. Migraine without aura is more prevalent as 85% of the migraine cases are without aura. It has at least two of the following characteristics. It may be unilateral with pulsating or throbbing headache, moderate to severe intensity, and may be aggravated by or avoidance of the routine physical activity. During an attack, it will have one of the following symptoms of nausea or vomiting, photophobia, phonophobia, and often fatigue and irritability is observed even after the attack. Migraine with aura is classical migraine that has at least one symptom which develops gradually over a minimum of 5 minutes or different symptoms that occur in succession. Each symptom lasts for at least 5 minutes but no longer than 60 minutes. Headache that meets criteria for migraine without aura begins or follows aura within 60 minutes. Aura means sensory experience. In migraine with aura, there are reversible visual, sensory, or speech symptoms which are observed and include positive and negative features. Positive features include flickering lights, spots, and lines, and sensory positive features may include pin-pricking sensation or needling sensation. Negative features include loss of vision and numbness. Triggers that may precipitate a migraine attack include increased stress, inadequate or excess of sleep, fluctuations in estrogen level during menstruation or during menopause, ingestion of vasoactive amines in food like alcoholic beverages, especially brandy, chocolate, or tyramine containing food like cheese. Other factors include cervical spondylosis, sinus pain, physical trauma, and fasting and hypoglycemia. Pathophysiology of migraine is not completely understood, but different theories try to explain the nociceptive pathways. Research shows migraine might affect different parts of the nervous system. For this, let's look at the trigeminal nerve, which is the fifth cranial nerve. Its branches innervate facial muscles, temporal mandibular joint, paranasal sinuses, and teeth. These nerves carry stimulus back to the trigeminal nucleus caudalis located in the brainstem. Migraine sufferers have lower threshold to stimulus and gives extraordinary response to otherwise normal stimulus. When trigeminal nerve is activated, it triggers the release of vasoactive neuropeptides such as CGRP, that is calcitonin gene-related peptide, neurokinin A, substance P, vasoactive inhibitory peptide, that is VIP. These released neuropeptides interact with dural blood vessels to promote vasodilation, plasma protein extravasation, and mast cell degranulation, leading to painful neurogenic inflammation. And through trigeminal nucleus caudalis, these pain impulses are carried to higher centers of brain, that is thalamus and cortex. Once the central sensory neurons are sensitized, continued nociceptive input will produce hyperalgesic state, leading to migraine. Genetics play a significant role in the pathogenesis of migraine. We know the normal functioning of neurons. When electrical signal comes, the sodium ions enter into the cell and potassium ion efflux occurs. Thus, impulse propagation takes place. Then at nerve terminal, calcium influx causes exocytosis and neurotransmitter release, which stimulates the next neuron by binding to the postsynaptic receptors. But when there is genetic abnormality, faulty calcium channels do not easily close once activated. Thus, uncontrolled calcium influx causes continuous neurotransmitter release and excitation of subsequent neuron, producing an exaggerated response. Advanced neuroimaging techniques have provided insight into the involvement of serotonergic neurons in migraine pathogenesis. 5-HT is strongly implicated as an important mediator of migraine. There are some supporting facts. First, it has been reported that 5-HAA, that is 5-hydroxy-indole acetic acid, which is the degradation product of 5-HT. Its concentration is increased in urine after a migraine attack, indicating more release of serotonin. Secondly, there is reduction in platelet serotonin, suggesting platelet activation and 5-HT release during migraine attack. Furthermore, drugs which act on serotonergic receptors prove to be helpful as anti-migraine drugs, suggesting involvement of 5-HT in migraine. Non-pharmacological treatment of acute migraine is limited, but certain measures prove to be helpful. Cold packs or ice packs constrict the dilated cranial vessels, thus providing some relief. Retiring to a dark, quiet room helps reduce the visual and sensory triggers of light and sound. Maintaining a record of frequency, severity, and duration of attack provides better insight for treatment and dosage. It may also help in identifying personal trigger factors. Patients are also benefited when they adhere to wellness program which includes regular sleep, exercise, cessation of smoking, and limited caffeine intake. Now let's discuss how can we treat migraine. First, assessment of migraine is done on the basis of severity and frequency. Severity means is the pain interfering significantly in patient's life, and frequency is how often do the attacks occur. And are these attacks increasing in frequency and severity? On the basis of that, we can classify them into mild, moderate, and severe. Patients with less than one attack per month come in the category of mild migraine. They experience throbbing but tolerable headache which lasts up to 8 hours, and this doesn't incapacitate the patient. In moderate migraine, there is one or more attack per month. Throbbing headache is more intense which lasts up to 6 to 24 hours. Persistent nausea and vomiting makes the patient functionally impaired. Patients of severe migraine suffer from 2 to 3 attacks per month with severe headache lasting 12 to 48 hours, with prominent symptoms of vertigo, vomiting, and sensitivity to light, sound, and smell increases. After assessment, we categorize patients into two categories: one with less than 2 attacks per month and others with more than 2 attacks per month. In patients who experience less than 2 attacks per month and attacks are stable in frequency and severity, we proceed with acute migraine strategy. In this, first we aim at identifying the possible triggers, which may be stress or consumption of tyramine containing foods, irregular sleep patterns, etc. And then we try to treat the patient as early as possible to provide relief. Acute migraine therapy includes simple analgesics like acetaminophen, non-steroidal anti-inflammatory drugs which can be combined with antiemetics to relieve nausea and vomiting. Specific anti-migraine drugs like ergot alkaloids and selective 5-HT1D1B agonists called triptans, which are the first-line drugs for patients who do not respond to analgesics. Mechanism of action of anti-migraine drugs is to constrict the dilated cranial blood vessels and reduction of neurogenic inflammation. Sumatriptan can also reduce 5-HT release by acting on presynaptic serotonergic autoreceptors. If acute therapy drugs are excessively used, they precipitate medication overuse headache or rebound headache. That means headache returns when medication effect wears off, leading to more consumption of drug for relief. Prophylactic migraine strategy is employed for patients experiencing 2 or more attacks per month with increasing frequency and severity, and when acute therapy is not providing much relief. Therefore, preventive administration daily is used for decreasing frequency and severity of attacks and improving responsiveness to acute migraine therapy. Preventive therapy includes beta-adrenergic antagonists, tricyclic antidepressants, calcium channel blockers, anticonvulsants, and 5-HT antagonists like methylsergide. Now let's have a look at the algorithm of acute migraine treatment. After the diagnosis of migraine, patient education regarding journal wellness program and avoidance of trigger factors is done. After the assessment of headache severity and degree of associated disability, treatment is started. If it is associated with severe nausea or vomiting, pre-treatment with antiemetic drug is done, and we consider the use of suppositories, parenteral use or intranasal formulations because the patient is already having nauseatic feeling. So we avoid the use of oral formulations. If the patient is experiencing mild to moderate symptoms, we start with simple analgesics or NSAIDs like paracetamol, aspirin or naproxen. In case of inadequate response, we start with combination analgesics like Midrin. Still, if there is inadequate response, we try triptans and ergot alkaloids, which are specific anti-migraine drugs. In case of severe symptoms, we directly give triptans or ergot alkaloids. If specific anti-migraine drugs are giving inadequate response, we move to opioid combination analgesics. In case of increasing frequency and severity and incomplete relief by acute therapy, we look towards prophylactic pharmacotherapy. Now, what happens when patient meets the criteria for prophylactic pharmacotherapy? In case of predictable headaches like menstrual migraine, we start with NSAIDs at the time of vulnerability like aspirin or diclofenac. In case of comorbid hypertension, angina or anxiety, we start beta adrenergic antagonists. If they prove to be ineffective or if they are contraindicated, we give calcium channel blockers like verapamil. In case of comorbid depression or insomnia, we start tricyclic antidepressants like amitriptyline. And in case of comorbid seizure disorder or maniac depressive disorders, we give anticonvulsants like gabapentin or valproic acid. If they prove to be ineffective, then we give beta blockers. If beta blockers are ineffective or contraindicated, we give calcium channel blockers. And if all these agents prove to be ineffective or inadequate response is given by these, then we give methylsergide, which is 5-HT antagonist. I hope you have a better insight into this topic now. If you do so, like and share this video and subscribe to my channel. If you have any queries, message me in the comment section below. See you in the next video. Bye bye.